people couldn't see my potential, so I had to show them.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
Today, I'm the CEO of my own company.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
Why are we not rethinking this?
I am more.
I'm more
than who I am on paper.
Do you have prediabetes? If you do, you're not alone. 1 in 3 American adults has prediabetes, and more than 80% don't know they have it. Prediabetes is a serious medical condition that puts you at high risk for type 2 diabetes. But now, North Carolina residents with prediabetes can enroll in a free or low-cost national diabetes prevention program. You can make healthy changes with support from this proven program. Get started now at joinaprogram.org.
And is this with the doctor or is this with the nurse practitioner? Fantastic. Dad, lunch. Got some soup for you.
You are loved.
Oh, you. Look at those freckles.
This was very much.
You are valued. You are strong. You are resilient. You got this.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Anna Linzie, and I am your host tonight with the Anna Linzie Show. I'm here every Monday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and tonight I am excited because I have my good friend, Dr. Nate Stevens, here with me. Welcome to my show, Dr. Stevens.
Thank you, Anna. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, we go way back. We're both from the same state, same town, and grew up together. Our families know one another. And, I think this what makes it even more special, just being able to have you here in my studio today by screen, but you're here and we're conversing.
Thank you. Again, my pleasure to be here. And yeah, like you say, we go back like babies and pacifiers. So
yes, and that's awesome. That's awesome because it's always nice. We know what people on growing up, and then we grow up and we go into our different fields and journeys in life. And wow, I'm totally impressed by what you're doing and all that you have been doing. But I do remember when we were living in the same city, which is Columbia, Missouri. Go Tigers.
That's right. Go M-I-Z-Z-O-U.
Yes. And I'm ready to get sidetracked already with them going to the Cotton Bowl, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Are you going?
Oh, yeah.
You are? Okay, great. I wish I could go up, but I'm just going to watch you guys and put on my gear, my MU gear.
Absolutely.
So, but with that being said, I remember when you had asked me, you were working on a project there at the university, the Black Culture University, and you asked me to come on, and I was doing my fashion to be a part of your fashion show. So thank you. We've been doing this, haven't we?
Oh yeah. And that's when I was thinking about doing my men's line, of fashion.
How about that? Is that something you're still interested in doing?
I mean, maybe one day, but
one day.
Yeah.
You can just show up though. You show up, put it together, and tell them how you do it. Show them how you do it, right?
Exactly.
I think you was pretty serious about that though.
Yeah, and for me, the thought was trying to have a line that brings a little bit of swagger and culture, in addition to some of the more formal business wear. Is what I was thinking about. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I had a few ideas, so maybe one day I'll revisit that.
Hey, I feel like we're giving gifts, and that's just part of one of your gifts that you have. right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I I hadn't let it go, Nate. I'm still loving fashion, and I'm just gonna keep it. I have my own light boutique and doing the model workshops with the young girls, mentoring the young ladies, and that kind of pulls it together. Because I can. It's just a lot of teaching and education with it. So I'm
Yeah.
still there
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
fashion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can see you doing that too with the young men because you mentor young men, so kind of overlaps, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of the things that we did when I created the Mizzou Black Men's Initiative, or we call it MBMI.
Mhm.
We talked about, how to tie a tie and how to match your belt with your shoes and how to,
Okay.
kind of accessorize properly in a way that you present. You give off the effect and the image that you want to have, while at the same time remaining true to who you are. I mean, we had young men from St. Louis and Kansas City and Chicago, and they felt like, well, this suit thing really isn't me. And I was like, it is you. It's just a different part of you that you
Yeah,
may not be accustomed to wearing. And so yeah, absolutely. It's educational.
I think so. I think so. First impressions, everything. And you look good, you feel good. You feel good, and people take you serious. That's what I try to teach my young ladies. If you want to be taken serious, sometimes you're gonna have to look like you are ready for that part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in those different arenas and atmospheres there. Well, you have agreed to do my word game. We're going to get to that. But before I do, I want to tell the audience a little bit about you.
Okay.
Okay. You are Dr. Nathan Stevens. You're an assistant professor in social work at Illinois State University. You earned your BSW at Columbia College and both masters in social work and PhD. Is that
Hmm.
correct? Okay.
Yeah,
Both of those degrees you received there at the University of Missouri.
that's correct.
Wow. At its core, your research investigates how racialization and racial stress trauma impacts the life trajectories of Black boys and men when, with education, criminal justice, and other inter-counter systems that reproduce oppressive conditions and foster negative life outcomes for Black males. Dr. Stevens, your research uses the lens of critical race theory, African American male theory, ecological system theory, and healing center engagement model to inform your research.
Hmm.
Prior to working in higher education, you previously worked with civil rights icon Wanda Faye Albert at
That's correct.
Columbia Parks and Recreation. We're smiling because we know all about Miss Wanda Faye, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You were there predominantly Black, was Black and low income Douglas Park at Columbia First Ward.
Hmm.
For your master's thesis project, he created the Youth Empowerment Zone, modeled after the Harlem Children's Zone, that assists youth 14 to 24 to obtain employment. The program currently operates as Como Youth Works. Okay, Dr. Stevens' brief in mentoring led him to accepting a position with the Big Brothers and Big Sisters as the coordinator of their Children of Prison program.
Hmm.
You co-founded the First Ward Ambassador, a program where Black men from the community who intervene into youth fights to limit police interaction. And we're going to talk about that, right? He motivates to help his community stems from his experience growing up in public housing in Columbia and as a former justice system involved individual.
Hmm.
After changing his focus in higher education, You created the Mizzou Black Men's Initiative, MBMI, in 2009, while serving as the director of Gaines Odom Black Cultural Center on Mizzou campus.
Mm-hmm.
He has a presence at several, you've been present at several conferences nationally and internationally on issues impacting Black males, such as mental health, racism, and the various psychosocial aspects. In the spring of 2020, Dr. Stevens, you created and taught social justice in social work, a class through the University of Illinois Education Justice Project for incarcerated students incarcerated at the Danville Correctional Center.
Mm-hmm. That was different.
That was different.
One of the best classes ever.
Really good. When of course I want to get all of that. I want to hear about it.
Absolutely.
During the summer, you worked with the Driven to Reach Excellence in African American Males called DREAM,
Mm-hmm.
a youth program for Black males youth in Champaign, Illinois, as a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. You have it on. They're probably like, hoo. And your chapter's new state-funded violence prevention program called Masterminds.
Mm-hmm.
Masterminds, okay. All of which work with local Black males in middle school and high school in Champaign County. This is great. You're dedicated. You've been dedicated for a long time, but you're dedicated.
I'm usually too busy to get bored, so that's
that's me too. But it's working. It's working. It's building, and you haven't stopped. I mean, for as long as I've known you.
Well, and I think about your grandfather, Mr. Linzie, in our church, St. Luke, back, home in Columbia. And, a lot of our elders used to say, if I can help somebody, my living was not in vain. And so that's kind of the mantra that I've lived by, and so that's what drove me to social work and getting involved and being involved, and then having mentors like Miss Wanda Faye Elbert, may she rest in peace. She forever impacted me. Former First Ward Councilwoman Almeda Creighton was another person that impacted me, and so with several people in the Columbia community and even here in Champaign County, in Champaign, Illinois, that just inspirational and encourages me to, not only tell my story, but reach out to the young people. If I can say something to them to keep them from taking the negative path that I took, I certainly want them to take the positive path that I've taken. But that's basically why I do it.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like it's work when you're doing what you love and what seems like second nature. Is that the way you feel about it as well?
Oh, absolutely. It's never work. Other than maybe mental work on how can I reach this young person, or making sure I heard and understood this young person and some of the challenges they may be going through.
And organizing it. I'm coming in, I'm like, okay, I'm tech tonight.
Organize but other than that, it's not work at all, like you say.
I agree. I have people ask me, you do so much. How do you do it all? And I'm like, it's really not a burden. I'm having fun. and I've been on this level and this impact. It's just this working impact for a while. So it's like, I'm having fun. It doesn't seem like work to me.
Correct. I understand that.
Yeah. That's when you're right where you're supposed to be in life, and that's a blessing. That's a blessing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're already talking, getting into our show, but that's when you know that you're living your purpose and you're living right where you're supposed to be, which brings you a lot of joy.
Oh yeah. And like I said, just contribute where you can.
Well, let's learn more about Nathan. I
Absolutely.
want to know a few things, what you've been up to lately, but I want to know what we're going to do the word game. So the
Okay.
first word is success. I want to know what you think about success, Nathan. Or I'm calling you Nathan. Can I call you Nathan?
Nathan, Nate, you know,
Dr. Stevens.
we've been connected long enough that, you know, it's all good.
But you deserve the doctor on it. So.
All right. Well, so doctor it is. Um, you know, success to me is really just when I've reached a point where I feel like I'm able to influence and to move and to do some things where I have a certain amount of agency. You know, that's success to me, where I can have some control over what I do.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a good perspective. Okay. The next word is faith.
Faith.
Yes, faith.
Oh, that's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
That is right. Gotta have it. That's the meat of the matter, right?
Oh yeah, that's it.
I think of faith, and that's what brings everything else in.
Oh yeah, it's the stuff that, like I tell people, it's part of my journey that I can't explain. You know, and I don't mean that to be super religious or whatever. It's just I know that I'm a blessed individual. I know that statistically I don't exist, you know, and so you know, the number of Black men with PhDs, and then when you talk about the number in social work, you know, it's a very, very small number. So
Okay, cool. Beginnings. The word beginnings.
oh, beginning, I'm sorry.
What comes to mind? What comes to mind with beginning?
Yeah, beginning is kind of starter's pistol. It's make it happen. It's time to roll up your sleeves. You know, it's time to go to work.
Yeah, fresh, new. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about courage?
Courage. It is being who you are in the face of adversity, in the face of danger. It is not the avoidance. It's just saying, hey, this is who I am. This is how I respond. You know, just being, you know, who you believe yourself to be.
I like that. I like it's not the avoidance.
No.
Yeah, I like that part. Sacrifice.
Sacrifice is willing to take one for the team, willing to take one for your family, your loved ones, for your fraternity, for those things and individuals and people, places that you believe in. You know, and it's about remaining humble. It's about willing to do what is needed to get where you all collectively and individually are trying to be.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Because you're taking it's you would sacrifice for what you believe in. Believes in who you believe in. Good. Love.
Love. Oh
Good.
man. You know, I believe love is a verb. I believe we use the word too loosely in our society. And when you love something you do or someone, you do what is essential to help that person or that thing be as best as it could possibly be, or best as they can possibly be, when you really love. And so love isn't necessarily a feeling to me. It's more of, you know, how do I help this person? How can I be, you know, my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper? How can I be my fraternity's keeper, my community's keeper? You know, you love Black people. What are you doing for Black people, right? You love Mizzou. How are you helping Mizzou? You know, how are you helping it become? And I will say this, quoting James Baldwin. James Baldwin says, I criticize America because I love it. So see, in order for me to help America be its best, I might have to criticize it.
Yeah, you may have to.
You know, but I've also learned in life that I remember one time I asked a potential employer, if you have a little boogie on your nose, you want me to tell you? And they were like, well, I don't understand the question. I said, basically what I'm getting at is, can we be frank with one another?
Oh.
And you understand that I'm not coming from, you know, a malicious place. I'm trying to be, as we say, I'm trying to be real with you, right? But if you want me to act like I don't see it and let you go out there again because I love you. I don't want you getting in front of a TV camera or
Right.
something.
Mhm.
I'm telling you because I care.
Mhm. And to be able to receive it back too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it takes you have to be able to receive that. Yeah, that balance with that. Okay, this one's gonna be a little off here, not as deep. Hot Cheetos.
Hot Cheetos, salty. I
Do
think
you
about
eat
I think about the young people that I work with.
uh,
They love hot Cheetos. They
that
love hot Cheetos and what's that other one? Takis,
Takis?
Takis.
Hmm.
They love those. And I'm like, these are not good for you. But we used to have, if you all can do this on time, all that, I'll give you, some type of reward. And a lot of times they wanted chicken wings and hot Cheetos. I don't fully understand that combination, but that was definitely something that they would go for.
That's the first thing that come to my mind too, is the kids with the hot Cheetos and the Takis. What was our thing? Did we have a thing?
I think we like remember when ranch flavored Doritos first came out?
Doritos? I
That
still
that
like
was that was
Doritos.
kind of our thing for a
Mhm.
while there. But I mean, I think it was the Doritos and stuff like that. So we
Yeah.
had some junk food in our day too.
Yeah, those Chico sticks. I remember the Chico sticks and the Now Laters. Did you do
Oh
the
yeah,
Now Laters?
now and later. Oh, absolutely,
We're
absolutely.
date we're dating ourselves right now.
Oh yeah, but those those are the fun days back when it
Yeah.
was when you can still get a 3-cent piece of bubble gum. In fact, I stopped at a convenience store over the weekend and I got some gum because I was going to an event and I told the clerk, I was like, I cannot believe I'm paying $3 for a pack of gum.
Yeah.
I was
Isn't it
She was
crazy?
like, I know, right? I was like, yeah, you used to be able to get gum for like 25 cents,
I
and
know.
$3 for a pack of gum.
And it seems like it just it went on overnight. It's like we were paying. Well, it was with the pandemic and all. I mean, it literally was overnight. It seemed like
Yeah, exactly.
short time things like doubled and tripled in price. Ugh. Whew.
Mm,
Thank goodness for
absolutely.
the grace to be able to maintain and pay that $3 for that gum, right?
Right. Okay. Well, and that's
I
what I
still
told her. I
we
was like, look, I'm not gonna be in nowhere with my breath tart. So I'm gonna go ahead and pay this little $3 for this gum. So
I still don't want to accept it as a new norm, though.
it is definitely
Nathan,
different.
yeah, yeah, it is. Tell me, we're gonna ask you, just a few questions here, and I want to go ahead and get into your bio and your study and about Black men. It's profound. It's profound to be able to converse about the not just the struggle, but also just as a Black man, that is your study, that is your research, that is your expertise, and I just know it's going to benefit our audience, and I'm interested to know too.
Okay.
But before I do, I want to know what makes you smile, Nathan.
Wow. What makes me smile is really seeing those that I love happy. Those that I care about on their path to where they're destined to be. That definitely makes me smile.
Yeah, yeah. Who influences you the most when you were younger? I want to know who influenced you the most when you were younger.
That's a great question. I'm gonna say probably my grandmother. And it's kind of unbeknownst to me. But her funeral earlier this year, it was talked about her as an activist, and I was like, that's where I get that from.
Oh,
I was like, because I never really, I didn't sign up to be an activist. I was just like, I saw what I believed to be right and wrong, and somebody needed to speak up and say something. And so I think I got that from my grandmother, who I remember as I read through her obituary, some of the stuff that she was involved with. And I was like, I do remember that.
mm-hmm.
Uh, but like I said, it's taken a long time for me to remember that. So it was planted a long time ago. So
Yeah,
I would say my grandmother.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how you look back, you see that because me being in the real estate now, I realize I'm with you. I had an epiphany. This was a seed planted long time ago with my great grandmother on my mom's side. You know my dad's side, but on my
Hmm.
mom's side, the drive to they were from Arkansas. I would be the driver, bring them to the family reunions and so on, and they would show me, the house that Madeir. We had a Madeir. We called him Madeir. Madeir owned that house. Madeir owned that house. I'm like, that's where I got that from.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I get it. I get it. So, and that's pretty cool because at the time you don't really see it. We're growing up, we're just concerned about other things in life, but then you get older, you're cherishing and you're looking back to see, what makes you tick.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know. Do you do that? You
I do, and like I say,
evaluate yourself to see what makes you tick?
um, not really.
No?
A lot of times it's just um, I believe I'm on the path that I'm supposed to be on.
Okay.
And I just go with that.
Okay.
And if that's wrong, then
I don't think
that's
it
that's
is.
a, that's a gamble I'm willing to take. But things it's been a blessing um so far. So far I believe like I've been hitting on all cylinders. So
Mm-hmm.
I believe this is what I'm called to do, what I'm supposed to do. And being in that is what makes me tick, what gives me, again, a sense of
Mm-hmm.
purpose. Rolling over in the morning, thankful to see another day, thankful to try to get it right and to do the things I'm supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm. That's me too. That's me too. What does it mean to you to have your doctrine?
It's interesting. Because I told a colleague of mine, and I hope he didn't think I was being arrogant or whatever. But when I graduated in December of 2021, so it's a couple of years ago this month that I finished my PhD, and he said, "How does it feel to be a doctor or whatever?" And I was like, "Really? That is for Illinois State and other institutions of education." That you have this credential. And I said, I've always known how smart I was. That was for,
Mm-hmm.
others. I've always known. I come from a family of athletes and I wasn't always the best athlete, but I was usually one of the smartest,
Okay, okay.
as it came to books. But I've always known that is one of the areas that I excel in. And so again, getting the doctorate is don't get me wrong, it's an
Yeah,
amazing feeling. I'm so appreciative to God because I know that's who made that happen.
a lot of work.
um that is one of those areas that I cannot fully explain. But I did do my part.
Mm-hmm.
I did write the papers, I did the reading, I did the research and the studies and stuff like that. um but I believe that that's something that we as a people we can do. We've been doing it. I mean, imagine, I think about people like Frederick Douglass who learned to read and, while he was, enslaved. And so we've always been an educated group of people. So to me, it's just a continuation of who we as a people have always been, and me as an individual doing my part so I can pass that on to the next generation.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. I can see you have being that representation. Being that representation.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh, Tell me, why did you agree to come on the show today?
One, because I know you. I'm so proud of you. I
Oh,
love what you've done. To me, you've always been a step or two above or ahead
oh,
of the rest of us. It's like you seem to know things that none of the rest of us knew. And
wow,
so
that's big.
so I'm happy to be on your show and to learn from you,
Oh,
and to engage with you. So and to share a little bit about me, but
Mhm.
also to share about what I do, and a little bit about why I do it. Like I say, we need more Black men and brown men in social work, for,
Mhm.
like you say, their representation, but also when you look at the people that social workers serve, a lot of times, the Black community or the Latino community is involved with that. But where are the brothers? And that's what, that class I was telling you about it at Danville Correctional Center, was a class of 13 men. 10 of them were African American. And so I've never taught a social work class, 10 African Americans and 3 Latino males, all men of color. And so, being a man of color, teaching this class, having been incarcerated myself,
Mhm.
it's just it's kind of a full circle moment. And so it was important, and we had a moment that I'm going to tell you about.
Yeah.
We so I was going as part of this program, weekly, and we were carpooling together, me and 3 or 4 other instructors. And so one night we arrived and we got inside the prison and we went into the building where we were all at. And all the other teachers in their classes went into the classrooms. And so one of the students said to the CO, "Man, let us into, our classroom, man." And the CO says, "Well, I'm waiting on the instructor." And the student said, "Man, he's right there."
Uh-huh.
So I blend in with the rest of them,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because I was, I wore more like, just like a sweatshirt or something, not with this on, but just a regular sweatshirt or something like that. And because of that, I blended in.
Mhm.
So it didn't matter that you were Dr. Stevens. It didn't matter. Well, I was in the process of being Dr. Stevens then, but it didn't matter that you were the instructor. What he saw was a Black man like the rest of these Black men, no different.
Yeah.
And so that's important. That's a key takeaway for our society, that you didn't even see me. I mean, my clothing, in prison they wear chambray blue shirts and blue jeans. I had on like a gray shirt or something, not a blue shirt. So you didn't even see gray from blue.
The difference there.
And so to me, it was they also wanted me to respond, the students. And I said, well, what I'll do, and I will tell you now, after that, every single time I came, I was dressed to the nine. I mean, I was, as they say, casket sharp, you know. And I told the students, I said, "Hey man, I love y'all, but I'm trying to go home." My wife, I said, "Look, I'm not trying to be locked up in here." But it was also a message to the COs to say,
Mhm.
"See me,
Yeah.
see this Black man who is coming here teaching other Black and brown men tools for their liberation. See
So
me."
is that what you did? Is that part of you? So you would go into the
To the prison,
prisons
Danville. Yeah,
and
Danville Correctional Center. Yep,
you would teach them a course. You would teach their course because they could take classes there. Is that
that's
the way
correct.
it went?
hmm
Okay. I think when I read that part of the bio, you smiled. Why did you smile?
Well, and that was just it. Is that
Okay.
memory, but I also remember that being one of the most engaging, and I've taught several years. But that was one class where you had better not show up and you haven't read the textbooks, you haven't done all that you need to do, because those students, they did
They
their part.
study. Yeah.
They studied, they've read, they asked really good questions.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, you can't come in here kind of
Uh-huh.
playing around.
Winging it.
I mean,
Yeah.
they are expecting you to be as credentialed as you say you are.
Wow.
And I loved it. I
Yeah.
I loved their challenges,
The
their
challenge.
questions, all of it. because I received it in love, and I never came, like, oh, well, I'm such and such, and we having conversations, we're learning
Yeah.
from one another.
Yeah. I was going to ask you why the work, but I mean, it's obvious why the work. Why do you do this work? Why do
Um,
you do this work?
well, I mean, again, I believe that there's a lot of work that, our civil rights pioneers like MLK and others took on. And again, we'll talk about Wine of Faye, we talk about Almeida, we talk about your grandpa, Mr. Linzie. I remember him, and the, stuff that many in our community and communities around the nation have done. And that work remains undone. And so, again, I just want to do my part to try to help us as a nation and as a people to progress. And to particularly our young people, to help them to progress. So,
And let me just go back here, because you tell me about the dream. What is dream?
yeah, Dream is it's a program. It's a youth program here in Champaign, started by one of my fraternity brothers, and it's the only program that I know of in the state that focuses primarily, almost exclusively, on the development of young Black men from an early age. And so during the summer, when I was teaching classes over there, I had a class of about 15 young fellas from about I think there was like 11 to 13, and we were having conversations, and so I told them, I'm giving you all some similar lessons that I give to my students on the Illinois State campus, and my expectations are the same, because you're able, right? And whatever supplemental education you need to be able to answer the questions that I'm asking you, I'm going to give it to you, but I'm going to expect you to answer these questions and do some of this work.
Do you think that approach, I can see it, but do you think that approach inspired them to maybe go on to college and higher education?
It may be a little early, but again, like you and I just talked about, you plant those seeds, and again, when I was hired, they told them, this guy is a college instructor. He's not, just JoJo up the street. Nothing against JoJo, but
Yeah.
the person in front of you, the person that's asking you these questions, the person that's also playing basketball with his old self, with y'all.
You still play basketball, huh?
Oh yeah.
You still do today?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Now I don't motivate up and down the court like I used to, but when I can, I usually do. But that person is he's here for you. I mean, because technically summers, as a faculty member, I have summers off. But for me, like, no, it's not off. That's time for me to go and give back to my community.
And speaking of, you are in the trenches. You're doing, you're actively in the street with your work. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So one of the things that, like I said, in addition to some of the work that I do with Dream, I also see myself as kind of a bridge maker, right? And so I'm the person that I do like evaluations and stuff like that of programs. And so I can go to Dream and to say, look, here, before I do this evaluation, one of the things you may want to look at before I come in and officially do my evaluation is look at some of these areas, right? And then I can come in and do my evaluation. Or, I can say, we're going to do an evaluation in May. What I'm going to be looking for is areas that you've improved. So not just with the young people, but also with the adults and stuff that are running these programs, because, and this is how I can use my credentials again to support my community.
Right.
So not to not be, I'm so smart and that's why I was like, man, it don't really mean a whole lot to me, other than how I can use it to help my people.
The collective of studies, which we're going to talk about that, because you pull together your let me go back to it.
It's just kind of my overall research agenda.
Yeah.
And so you had asked about critical race theory, and so basically, critical race theory was created by legal scholars, one of whom was Derek Bell, and it basically makes the argument that the issues that we see, issues of oppression that we see, are not just about an individual; it's about a systemic issues pertaining to, particularly around race, because they had critical legal scholars, but Derek Bell and this group broke to say even when you account for class, race is another factor. And so that's where critical race theory came from. And real quickly, it says it's an academic field devoted to analyzing how social and political laws and media shape and are shaped by social conceptions of race and ethnicity. Critical race theory also considers racism to be systemic in various laws and rules, and not only based on individuals' prejudices. And so, again, this came out of law schools early on when it was first created. And so a lot of the pushback against CRT and saying that someone is inherently racist, and that's not at all what a true critical race theory scholar is not going to say. What, and I've been asked that question before: are white people racist? I said, to me, you're asking the wrong question. In response to that question, that I gave at a keynote in Indiana, I said, to me, the answer is, do all white people benefit from systemic racism? And the answer to that is yes. And so the question is, how can you leverage, your privilege to, lift up those who don't have that privilege? And I ask men the same question: how can you as a man counteract and work against sexism and patriarchy? And so critical race theory just looks at the systemic laws and stuff. Like, you remember with the Dred Scott decision, the decision was that the Constitution was never created for Black people. So for someone to say, I know my rights, or all men are created equal, well, all white men, not all men. And so critical race theory calls those kind of things into question.
I can see that. I can see there's a lot of work to be done. You think about racism, and racism is so broad. It's not just a color or a culture. It's just so broad.
And then you had asked me about African-American male theory. That's a theory that is based off of Bron Friedbrenner ecological systems theory, and our EST. Ecological systems theory looks at not just the individual, but the individual, the community, the sort of neighborhood, the city, the state, the nation, and all of these different aspects: schools, politics, economics, education, all of these different areas, and the impact that has on the individual person and individual communities. And African-American male theory looks at the ecological systems theory through the lens of a Black male. And so that's where my research says, like, for example, when you talk about the school to prison pipeline, who does that disproportionately impact? Black and brown men, right? And so then so you have this education feeding into the criminal justice system. Well, why is that? And so my research kind of looks at that. And so then finally, part of the way you reverse some of that, where many of us are familiar with trauma, and asking, instead of what's wrong with you, what happened to you. Healing-centered engagement are the steps that you take to begin to acknowledge the trauma that someone has experienced, and to engage them as part of the solution to their own trauma. And so it's created by Dr. Sean Genwright out of Oakland, California. Shout out to Oaktown and Dr. Genwright for that important work. But it started with his work with young Black boys in Oakland. You know, and he said he learned because he was teaching, you know, trauma, and a young Black male said, I am not the worst thing that ever happened to me. He said, I'm so much more than that. And he said, I was kind of thrown off because he's like, you know what, he's right. And so that's where healing centered engagement is. How do we help our young people heal from some of the things that have happened to them that they may not even be aware of?
Yeah, and this is what you have lend your life to. And that is understanding what we're dealing with and finding ways to make it better and implement programs there. You've done some programs there in Illinois. You've actually spearheaded a program. Want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, it started for me in Missouri while I was still in Columbia. You talked about the First Ward ambassadors. That's some work that I did with Tracy Edwards, may rest in peace, Scotty Williams, Rufus Broadus, Glenn Cobbins was involved with it. Brian Cook was involved with it. Daryl Foster, another icon, rest in peace. We had a young brother, Daryl Jackson, was involved. And what we were basically trying to do was to tell Columbia Police Department and others, you know, we're down here in Douglas Park working, you know, the kids get to fighting, we can break that up. We can deal with that. You go deal with the people with the guns and that kind of stuff. And so what we were really trying to do was to provide a buffer between our young people and the police. But we were also willing to say, look, if you're not going to listen to us, we're going to have to get out of the way. And when they come, they're not going to come as nice as we're trying to have a conversation with you. They're going to come with guns and billy club and mace and all that stuff, which they're trained to do. So that was, you know, one of the things that I was involved with. You know, then you talked about the Mizzou Black Men's Initiative, and that happened when I left working with Douglas and went to work for the University of Missouri at the Gaines Odom Black Culture Center. And again, I noticed that the student organizations, young brothers were not involved. It was usually young Black women who were leading NAACPs and the Black student unions and all of this. And again, you know, because you came and spoke to some of them, but I'm like, where are the brothers at? And so for me, I feel like sometimes we need a space where we can, you know, be ourselves, right? And not have to put on a show or whatever, but also learn and grow together in a safe space. And so that's what we created, a program to help, you know, personal development, academic support, leadership, and growth. And so we did community service, we did, you know, study halls, we did all of those things, and it was successful. So the program that I created in 2009, it is actually still going on the Mizzou campus right now.
Yay.
Yeah. And
That's
now,
awesome.
but because of some political reasons, my name is not associated with it.
Oh,
But everybody who knows that program, they know.
yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
was there. I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they were so mad at me because I was, you know, I shouldn't say they were some. My particular supervisor at that time was so angry that he's kind of, you know, try to basically erase me from history. But, you know, the beautiful thing about oral traditions, which is part of what we're doing now, is, you know, like you said, I know. And when I know and I say, people can't erase that,
No,
you know,
they
so.
can't. Yeah, especially the good work. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
that's what you call it, the good trouble.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what that's called,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Well, on that note, there's I want to get to a few more of what you're doing currently too, and some of your projections for the future, because I know you have some things that you're implementing and going to be implementing in different cities and throughout, United States and wherever it goes. But before we do, we are needing to take a small break.
Okay.
Got to get to some commercials here. So
All right.
keep
Pay the
all those thoughts
bills.
in mind, pay those bills, but keep those thoughts in mind because there's a couple other points that I want to get to as
Okay.
well. Okay.
All right.
Hey guys, again, this is the Anna Linzie Show. You have been listening to my good friend, Dr. Nathan Stevens, who is a assistant professor, but also a advocate for the African American male, which is, we can't get any better than that in this day and this time, to know that those are advocates are out there, activists are out there, professors, just making a difference in lives of our people and of the world. It's just not our people. We're all here together, and it's making a difference. So with that being said, we're going to take a small break.
I wonder if you know that I want the best for you. That I know what you're going through. I know things aren't easy, but you still show up. I wonder if you know that we can get help. That we don't have to go through this alone. Let's see how far we can go. Love your mind.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Hey guys, I'm back. This is the Anna Linzie Show, and I have been talking with my good friend, Dr. Nathan Stevens, who again, in his own right, has been just making a difference with our youth, with the educational system, with those who are transitioning and out of incarceration, and just doing the work, whatever work is needed by way of empowering Black men through his the gathering of his expertise and the study of Black men. Dr. Stevens, my good friend Nate.
Hey.
Let's keep going. Let's get into it. So we were talking about the different your studies and how the research that you've done now allows you to go into the communities and implement, evaluate, educate, and support.
Absolutely.
Does that kind of sum it up?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good. There's one other that you have been involved in. Program, and that is the Big Brother and Big Sister program. You coordinated. You was a coordinator of the prison program there.
Yeah, that was a program that was out of Philadelphia originally. It's called Amachi, Children of Prisoners, and what that program was geared at was providing a mentor for a child that had a parent that was incarcerated. Because the statistics say that a child that has a parent that's incarcerated are 6 times more likely than a child that doesn't have a parent incarcerated to become incarcerated. And so in a way, it makes it normal for them to become incarcerated because it's something that they've seen or become familiar with for a variety of reasons, most of which are economic and that parent not being able to provide some income, but also not being able to provide the guidance that they would if they were there. And so that program was, again, created in an effort to try to prevent young children from becoming themselves incarcerated one day.
So, what was can you give a few details
Yeah,
on your
so
involvement with it?
Yeah, so basically, I was trying to, I was more the administrator. So I handled the federal grant that Big Brothers Big Sisters had received. And it was a collaboration between Columbia, Missouri, Jefferson City, Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, and Kansas City, Missouri. I got data from all of those cities and I submitted it to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for the grant. And so that's primarily what I did, but I also tried to help with recruiting the mentors. And so I would go into barbershops and beauty salons and different areas, trying to recruit mentors for the young people that had, a parent that was incarcerated. In some instances, it was, the mother, a single mother becoming incarcerated. So the child is being raised by elderly grandparents. And so getting a mentor for that child often was a difference maker for them and their life trajectory.
I had a big sister when I was younger.
Yeah, me too.
You had a big brother?
I had a big brother.
Yeah, I don't remember her name, but man, it was a beautiful experience.
Mine was Pat Miller and Kurt Sleater. I still
Okay.
remember them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's my first St. Louis Cardinals game. I went with Kurt. And then the first time I realized what medium rare steak was, we went to G&D Steakhouse in Crossroads Shopping Center, and he ordered a medium rare, and I wanted to be like big bro, give me the same thing, and I cut into that thing, man, and that blood trickled out, and I'm looking at this blood, it's a little kid from the projects. I've never seen, no plate with no blood on it. I'm like, and he said, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Mom, there's some blood on it."
Yeah,
And so he kind of laughed, and that was definitely a memorable moment. So,
I
but I knew what medium rare was then. After that, I wanted medium well. So
exactly, exactly. I remember we were living on Lincoln at the time, and we had a big sister, and like I said, it was a positive experience. That's cool. So I noticed that several of your endeavors there have been around prison. Is there a reason for that, or is it just pretty much just unfold?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, that definitely impacted my life. Growing up, my stepdad was incarcerated. My older brother was incarcerated before he was murdered. My older sister was incarcerated. My younger brother was incarcerated. I had uncles that was incarcerated. So it's very familiar with me. And then I end up one day myself getting incarcerated. And so I understood that it's not always quote unquote bad people. It is people who did things that are illegal that result in where they end up at, and so so that definitely impacted my life. I would argue that it probably even saved my life, because I was just going, dealing with situations from a knee jerk and not really thinking. I remember living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and getting into I'm going to say misunderstanding, for lack of a better word, because I was never involved with gangs or anything like that, but yet here I am being shot at, and having a reaction to that. You tried to kill me, so I'm going to shoot back at you. Thankfully I never did that, because I thank God in his infinite wisdom, protected me from that. But I was still dealing with, you know, some emotional and mental things that led me to do something dumb. And in hindsight, I'm like, that was really dumb for you to do. But it made sense at the time, you
Yeah.
know. And so so one of my mantras now is to be who I needed back then, is to be someone that can say, look, I understand how you're feeling right now. You know, you need some money. You know, your homie up the street is saying, I can give you this sack to help you get on your feet and help you get this money. And that's possible. You may be able to do that. You may be able to get away with it. But if you're caught, now the money you needed is become, now you need that times 5,
Yeah.
you know, because you need a lawyer and all this other stuff. And so that's kind of my motivation, is to kind of say, what would have happened if you could have had someone that have said, look, here's some options that you can do, you know, you, instead of doing something, you know, in an attempt to earn some money.
Yeah, and also too, I've been there. You know, I've been there. I know how you know, you feel like you just said, but also on the other side of coming out, I'm intrigued about you coming out and being as successful as you are. The examples, I'm sure there's others, but it's so hard being able to transition
Yeah.
once you come out. What was
I,
your support
I,
system? I mean, what?
well, I think for me, the first thing is I had a strong foundation before I went in. Right. I had
Okay.
been to Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri. Shout out to LU, the Blue Tigers. And I only left because I didn't have money to stay in the dorm the second semester. And so that took me back to the projects where my mother was struggling with an addiction, and it normalized me doing dirt, as we say. And so I had a foundation in terms of education and stuff like that, so that when I ended up there, it was clear that, you know, I was a tutor while I was in, and it was brothers who could not distinguish lowercase p from Q, lowercase b from D. And I'm you know, that was one of the things that I'm like, okay, this is definitely different than me, right? I also had an older brother that who asked me, he said, what are you doing here? And I'm like, you mean other than I did something allegedly like you? He said, yeah, I know that. He said, but you got them smarts. What are you doing? He said, I hear it when you talk. He said, yeah, you got a little country grammar going on. He said, but other than that, he said, you're smart. What are you doing here? And that was really the first time I kind of was like, wow, you know, what am I doing here? And so then, you know, the other thing was I read the Bible for the first time, you know, and I didn't go like, oh, you know, I'm gonna read the Bible and God, please get me out. It wasn't that. It was, this is something my grandmother always relied on. You know, this is something so many of the saints at St. Luke always relied on, and I've never read it. You know, I've gone to church many a times, but I've never read it. And so let me see what was in here. You know, again, I'm a nerd. I love to read, right? And so that, combined with the foundation I already had, to me, inspired the hope that helped me to be where I am now.
Give you that strength and that
I
foundation.
was called then. I knew I had a dream. I had many dreams about what I was going to do once I got out, and it wasn't like, you know, wishful thinking. It was more like the blueprint. You know, and I was like, yeah, okay, you know, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna go back. All I knew was I'm supposed to go back to college. I didn't know anything other than that. So I ended up, when I got out, I went to Columbia College, and they told me, okay, we're going to give you 1 semester on probation. I was like, okay. And I graduated on the dean's list. I graduated at 3.78 GPA. Right. At that time, I was working at Mizzou as a custodian. And I had a real cool supervisor who said, you know, I was working at nights. And so I would clock in at like 3. I had to be in class at 5, get out of class at 8, and then I would go back to work, right? I would do my homework, and then I would stay till 1, 2, 3 in the morning because I wanted to do my work, my homework, and then I had to do my cleanup stuff. And so these were little people along the way that helped me, and that's what it takes, is somebody saying, hey, look, if you're willing to work, I'm willing to give you a chance, no matter what your background is, et cetera. And for us who get those opportunities to take full advantage of them. And so that led to getting my master's degree, because one of the professors at Columbia College, like, man, you got to go get your master's. I was like, okay. So I did. And then while I was finishing, actually, when I was finishing Columbia College, I met one of my mentors. His wife worked at Columbia College. And so there's a little funny story that I tell about that. Is one Friday night, I was, taking some trash out the back dock, and he was going out the back dock to the parking lot, and his name is Jeff Zylinga. And Jeff is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, well-tanned, good-looking guy. You would think he's from California or something. He looked like he could be a middle-aged model from California. Good-looking guy. So he comes up to me one night, and he says, do you know my wife? I'm like, hey, man, hold on. Who's your who's your wife, man? And he says, Terry Zylinga. And I'm like, yes. I'm like, you know what? She sent me something about some program that they're having. So Jeff, being who he is, he went home and asked her about the program. And she's like, oh, yeah, Nathan, I know. Yeah, he's got a 3.72 GPA. And so Jeff was like, my janitor has a 3.72 GPA. She's like, yeah, we wanted him to be in who's who in America's colleges and universities for Columbia College. And so he was like, my wife said, have you responded to my wife about the program? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get to it. Again, I've always known how smart I was. I didn't need those accolades or whatever, right? But that established a relationship that helped me get the job at Mizzou years later, where I was able to create the program. That also opened up the door for me to get in Mizzou's PhD program. And so, right. And so all of these things happen. My cousin Maverick's ex-wife worked for Jeff. She was his executive assistant. She helped me get the job cleaning up the bookstore, where I happened to run into him. So it's all of these things that I feel like God put into place for me to be where I'm at. And that's why I say it's things that I can't fully explain, so.
So do you think that that's needed? That's what you would encourage anyone that was been in your position and been incarcerated
absolutely.
Is to take advantage, look for the opportunities?
Well, when I was released, we didn't have a lot of these reentry programs that we have now to that will help with some of the transitions, help with, what is it you need to know, help with bus passes, help with, resume application, helping to fill out an application. I know there's a program in Columbia, a good friend of mine, Masaka is involved with a lot of the reentry work. Our mutual friend Creo, Chris Haynes, is involved with some of the reentry work. So yeah, and even some of the community folks. I credit Rufus Broadus with the one who told me to go talk to Wanafe about a job. And that job, was technically my first social work job. And I loved it. And it helped me to say, yeah, this is the work I've dreamed about doing. And again, one thing led to another. Yeah.
Helping out. Well, I'm glad you're sharing that, because some people will, wouldn't be as transparent. To get that position, find those ladders and then almost forget
Right.
or where I don't want to be so callous in saying where they came from, but just, you know, embarrassed, have whatever reason, for whatever reason, not feel comfortable. I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's the better way to look at it, not feel comfortable in sharing. But you're sharing today. I know it's going to help
Yeah.
millions.
Well, yeah, and the main thing is get out of your own way. You know, I remember when I first came home, the first job I got was Hardee's that used to be on Providence, you know, across from where Osco Drugs was. And, you know, I went and said, hey, you know, this is all I have. I have my prison ID and that kind of stuff. And I got a job, but I remember, I won't name names, but there were people that I knew that I used to hang out with
Mm-hmm.
would come through the drive-through
Yeah.
after the club and be like, oh, look at Nate, y'all, look at Nate, you know, and they was cracking the jokes. And I'm like, hey, look, I'm doing what I made a promise to my children that I wasn't going back. So if this is what I have to do,
Mm-hmm.
so be it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I say when I say get out of your own way, is let that, take the teasing, whatever it is. You know, the other thing is I've had people when I came home, people's like, hey man, let me help you get on your feet. No, man, are you crazy? You know, I'm good. I appreciate it. You know, I'm good, you know. But the biggest thing was my Aunt Karen, and my Uncle Juju, may he rest in peace, giving me a place to stay, to parole out to, because I can't stay with my mom, right? One, my little brother was there, and he's, you know, got, you know, criminal background, so they would have never approved me paroling there. So I need a place where I can go, and you know, and get on my feet. I mean, you know, I had been gone almost 6 years, so it's important to humble myself, ask for the help that I need. Again, talking with OGs like Rufus and be like, man, I need something different. Man, go do this. You know, so that's my way of saying I need a little help, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
trusting that this is somebody that might be able to give me some advice. And I think it's also a responsibility for the OGs. I guess myself, I'm an OG now,
Right.
right?
OG now, you're doing the OG work now.
To pay it forward, just like he
Mhm.
did for me, you know. Also folks like Reverend Hayes, and you know, it was funny because my grandmother came to my parole hearing as a representative of St. Luke, you know, because she was Nettie Jordan,
Right.
and my last name was different, you know. But she you know, I'm representative of St. Luke, and Reverend Hayes, we will help him get his head together, and you know,
Yeah. And
and so yeah, that
took you
was
under,
all.
go ahead.
No, I was saying that was all needed, you know.
Yeah, he took you under his wing. I remember I was there at that time. I didn't know your story. I really didn't know your story. So again, I'm glad that you're sharing it. But I do remember that time where you were there and you were doing you were right alongside him doing community work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, we can go on, but we're just gonna have to just do another show. How about that?
Absolutely. Hey, I would love to do it. I would love
Yeah,
to do it.
I am convinced that this show is going to help many. And again, I appreciate it because I look at you, you know, you came through, and you are now Dr. Stephen, Dr.
Yes.
Nathan Stevens, not Dr.
Yeah.
Nathan,
Thank you. Thank you.
who has, you know, proven to himself and now is a great asset to all of us. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, again, thank you for coming on the show. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out the show? I know that I said that and I had another thought going on, but I know that your programs work. Uh, and I'm not sure if it's just one, but your programs work and you're willing to go into the cities, different cities to implement the programs. Is there a name for that program?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't really have the program per se. Again, it was
Okay.
the youth empowerment zone at the time.
Okay.
But really, what I would advocate for folks to do is to kind of assess what's needed,
Okay.
and you do these community assessments. Like for example, I get a little frustrated when people say stop the violence. And fail to understand that the violence that we witness isn't, and that's where the ecological systems theory comes in, that it's not just a matter of someone woke up and said, hey, I'm going to go and do something boneheaded today. It was a series of frustrations. I can't get a job. I'm starting to see my mom struggle and all this other stuff. And then when someone disrespects me, now, the violence happens. And so, being willing to come into these cities and to do, asset mapping and do,
Okay. That's what that was.
yeah, what's needed, to talk to young people, to talk to parents, to do keynote speaks. So yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay. That's where I was going towards. So motivational speaking, keynote speaking, assisting. Obviously, what you have done in the past has worked, and what you're doing now is working.
Absolutely. And I would like to give a shout out to the National Association of Black Social Workers, President Melissa Haley, who's in New Orleans, who was also, a group of folks that were supportive, who've mentored. And so, if you are a person out there, I would ask you to consider social work as a career. We do more than give away food stamps or take people's kids. I know that's what I first thought when I was interested. But I learned that it's a whole lot more. In fact, I have a book that I use, 101 Careers in Social Work. And one of them is doing the exact work that I'm doing now, being advocates, being educators, those types of things, and then having an organization like the National Association of Black Social Workers, which has chapters nationwide, to help us to be the change that is needed in our communities.
Yeah. And you say, that people should consider that as a employment, because you can get paid for doing what you love doing, which is helping your community and helping others.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think when we talked the other day, you had mentioned that. So that's a good point. So that's a good point. Anything else?
That's it. And again,
That's it.
kudos to you. Thank you
Thank
for having
you.
me.
You're
And
welcome.
you keep being great. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And again, I know that we're going to link up in other ways. And audience, thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you again, Dr. Stevens, for coming on and sharing who you are and all that you do. But this is the Anna Linzie Show, and we are unfortunately come to our end of our show. I'm here every Monday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So tune in, and we will see you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted.